Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good Tuesday so far. My name is Sarah Fairclough, and I'm the Business Administrator for our Platform Solutions team here at SmartSimple. Today, I'm joined with Mark Bridger, our UI lead, who's going to be going over our March 2021 upgrade overview. So thank you for joining us all today, just because we have a lot of exciting updates to the system. And just a quick little housekeeping before Mark jumps in. Please post questions throughout the webinar. Mark will be answering questions at the end, but anytime you think of it, just post it in the chat or the Q&A box. And I do see a question already at the meeting. This session is being recorded. I will be sending the link out to everybody who registered today, and it will also be posted on our YouTube channel. It just takes about a week just with editing and all that, but they will be sent to you shortly. And now I'm going to pass it over to Mark.
Hello, everybody. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Today, we're going to talk about the 2021 March upgrade. I'm going to do it by starting at our wiki.smartsimple.com. And if I go to upgrades, you can see right here the dates of all of our upgrades. Depending on your hosting, that information is here. It may vary. The backups get upgraded 2 weeks before the production. If you haven't already watched it, there's a video here every upgrade. It's usually about 5 minutes. This one's a little shorter, about 3 minutes, but it's good to share with anyone who can't attend a webinar such as this one. At least gives you the very highlights of it. As Sarah mentioned, what I plan to do is I'm going to go through each of the changes. I'm going to give you a little more context about them. And I expect you just put whatever questions you have in the chat. And once I've finished going through these the different changes, then we'll spend as much time as needed to answer any questions you have. So without any further ado, let's get started, and just let me know if I go too fast or if or just keep throwing questions in the chat. So the first thing is the Synority, which is an e-signature integration. So if I come into my system here and I go to Global Settings, under Integrations, we have various third-party online signature providers. So sometimes you might want to generate a document in your system, and you might want to send out to get signed. So if you're using the Synority one, it's now a bring your own license. So there's lots of different ones that people can use, and they can set up to have people sign and then send it over. Synority is now kind of a bring your own license. So you should have already been in contact with, but if you have any problems with that, just contact support. It's as easy as you come into here and you set up your username and password. And then it's a matter of, on the web page view, there's some code that gets put in there. The job costing application, if you've never used that, before we had the UTAs, we had a whole bunch of tailor-made applications that did specific things. This one has been deprecated. So newer systems won't be able to turn this on anymore, but most people probably are very few new clients would ever use this anyway. The classic calendar, again, this you probably shouldn't even notice anything on this. If you come into the system and you go to calendars, everyone was switched over to Arcadia. This is the way the Arcadia calendar looks. So everyone will now have the Arcadia calendar. Let me show you. Under user profile, if I go into my roles and access, you'll notice this area here has changed slightly. There used to be a way to set the IP address, so only certain IP addresses could log in. That functionality has been deprecated, but you can use two-factor or other security protocols instead. And I do apologize if I'm a little quick on that one. The personalized alert messages. So if everyone can see here, at one point we'd introduced a kind of a hey Mark, more of an informal alert message. The feedback we got from our community was it wasn't really well received. And after this upgrade, we're going to switch everyone over to the generalized alert instead of the more personalized hey Mark. With API, there was a couple changes with the API, such as only allowing 10,000 records at a time, and there's pagination and a couple other things. If you're having any problems with the API, I'd suggest just reach out to support, and we'll get someone a little more technical than me to explain to you those changes around the API. and help you out with anything that needs being done. So that brings us on to something that I find more exciting, which is the user interface for associations. So let me show you something. But before I show you it, I want to show you one other thing. So if I come in here and I go to classic options, we have a classic option called use classic association entry view. And what this really is this is how I add contacts or attach things in the system. So if you have the classic one on, you're not going to see any changes. But if you don't have the classic one on, I'll show you how it looks now. So I'm going to open up a level 1 record. So this is like a grant application. And I'm going to go to the contacts. So previously, let me close it down. Previously, there would have been a plus button here if you were using the new association entry. But after the upgrade, we now have a bar that you can expand, which is add contacts. And so I can come in here and I can say, pick myself. I'm going to add myself as an applicant to this role. I can add somebody else. Let's see who I want to pick. I'll pick Charles Babbage. All right, maybe I'm going to put him as an employee. And if I wanted to, I could also do my normal search here where I can pick people by role or by status, or I can use the advanced search to really find those type of people I want to add to this record. And once I'm happy with all these people, I just submit it. And now they show up down here. I no longer have to open up that modal window anymore. I can see who's already added and which roles they're already added. And I can add one or more people all at once. Now, if I really want to as well, I can also do multiple contacts. So this is kind of like the hybrid of what we had before, where I can say, okay, I can do my searching again to filter, and then I can grab whoever I want, add them to the bottom, add them all in one role, and I can group add them there, and then I can change these as I want, and then I submit and they'll appear at the bottom. So this is the new association view. I hope you guys turn on if you haven't already, and you try to give us some feedback, because we really hope that this will make it a lot easier for you for adding things like your users. And this would appear in multiple areas of the system. The next thing I want to talk about was the user menu. So, well, actually it's not the user menu, it's the menu icon. So this thing up here at the top right, we call this the menu icon. And when you click it, there's lots of different things that can show up in here that can be configured to show up. Now, if I go into users roles, and I go into, if I went into a role here, there used to be a menu icon option, but now, lost my train of thought there. Go to security, system feature permissions. That's been moved here to system feature permissions. So now what used to be under the menu tab on the roles is now in the system feature permissions. We did that to keep all the settings in the same place, because some settings were in the system feature permissions and some were on the role. So now they're all in the same area, in the system feature permissions, where I can see who has access, who can use these different things, who will see this. In addition to that, what we did is we add a new view of seeing who has permission to see what. So this is the traditional feature-based one, where I can look at things like who has access to the calendar, and I can say I want everyone to, or a specific role, or multiple roles can have access to that calendar. Or I can come in role-based feature mode, click on a role, and then again, I can go in here and say, okay, I can see this role, the applicant role, has access to calendars. So it's just another view or another way of seeing which roles have access to other things, and we combine some of the settings to be in the same area just to make it a little easier for you. Okay, association. Let's talk about group email. Cool. All right, and group email was added. Yes. All right. So this is kind of big if you send all the emails out to people. So before, if I have this grant, I have a grant record here, for example, and on this grant record, normally I might attach a whole bunch of different contacts to this grant record, and I might email those contacts. But what I can also do is I can attach or associate an organization with this grant record, and then now that I have it associated, I can now group email it. So what I say by that is I can pick, let's say, all the people that are employees of that organization. I can send them, or maybe they're all applicants or something similar to that. And I can select them and say, okay, next I want to send them an email. And then from here, I can pick the template that I want to use, and I can generate my email, and it'll send that out to all those people in the associated organization, even if they're not attached to that record. So it's kind of very powerful in that way that you can now group people of associated organizations that are actually attaching those users to the record itself, other than through the organization. So that's kind of huge. List views, beautiful. Last upgrade we talked about the proximity list view, and I'm going to answer all these questions. I see a bunch of stuff coming in, so just keep asking them, and I'm going to go through. I'll run through them a little more slowly. I just want everyone to kind of get context of the major things first. So let's see, go to proximity map. So last upgrade, I think we did a bunch of changes to this proximity map. So for example, here I did a search. This is my location. I'm in sunny Toronto right now. And I looked at 250 miles from me. Where am I giving money out to? And I can see these, there's two people. Now, if I adjust this to 500 miles, I'm going to see more. And what happens now is this map will zoom in and zoom out based on the radius of the proximity that I've set. And I can also see it listed down here on these cards. If I selected it here, it selects it on the map. But also now, if I select the map, you've got that nice interaction back and forth both ways. So we've got the zooming and the highlighting and the listing on both sides. So that was a nice addition to this proximity maps. And you might use this proximity map to, again, show where your funding's going, or organizations in the area that people might want to help or donate to, or whatever the case may be. So this is the proximity map, and we've enhanced that. Question set builder. Now, I'd like to see more people adopt the question set builder personally. And I'd love to see anybody who's using it really well. What the question set builder does is, let's say I've got a level 1 and I want to ask some questions on the level 2 activity. So I've got level 1 like a grant, and there's this one grant. I have just a couple questions I want to ask, and I'm only going to ever want to ask it for this grant. And maybe I don't need a report on it or anything. I just want to ask that question, and I don't want to have to ask my global administrator to set up that question, and I don't want all those custom fields in there because I know I'm only going to use it one time and I'm not even going to report on it. Well, in that case, this question set builder is quite good, because what I can do is I can set up this field and I can permission the field so any role can have access to it. And here they can go and they can just add the questions that they want to add. I don't need to bug my system admin, and I can add these questions. So here I've added a bunch of questions. And then when I create a level 2, on that level 2, which is an activity in this case, I can see right here, here's my question set. So here's all the questions that I set up that I wanted to be asked. And so it's a really easy way to set up a bunch of questions that can be asked. Now, this has always been there. But what we did in this upgrade, and I'll open up the field for you to show you, is we gave you more robust control over what kinds of questions you can ask and what will be shown. Now, let me show you that. So I'm going to go to edit this field. And if I look down here, so by default, you get what you saw there. But if I click on custom, I can choose what kinds of questions I want someone to be able to ask. So I can restrict it and say, I only want people to be able to ask single line or multi-line text questions. I only want them to have like narrative questions because I don't want to report on, I don't want money or something, right? So I can restrict that, and then the person who creates the questions can only make those kinds of questions. Likewise, I can choose if I want to include the format or not. And that's things like, do I want to be able to specify, I expect a percent or a currency. Likewise, precision. If I'm talking about money, I can say, okay, I only want to see 2 decimals, or what kind of precision do you want? And lastly, I can specify currency. So if I only want my clients to be able to enter things into euros or select euros, then I can put that down. So those are the changes to the question set builder. And what you see here is just a sample question set that I just threw in there. The checkboxes and radio buttons, it's so minor that most of you may not notice this, but we just enhance these a little bit. So here's the question, the checkboxes. Well, now when you click them, there's a little more visual appeal to it. The hit size is a little bigger. Same with the radio button. It's a little more noticeable than it was before. Now, if I go into a record, so next I'm going to show you, talk just a bit about the log data. So here I am on a record. This is a grant, again, it's a level 1. And if I go to the logs, I'm going to go to the field change history. So on the field change history, I can see all the changes that happened to this record. Who entered what, when they entered it, what they changed things to, their values, right? After 2 years, we were archiving that data. So after 2 years, you wouldn't have seen those things. Shortly after this upgrade, you're going to start seeing those values of the changes that happened over 2 years ago. They're going to start populating in there. So we made a change. So instead of just archiving it, we're going to make that visible here to you as well. Copy. So we did revise the whole copy process. So if I'm going to copy this grant level 1 record, I would go say new, and I would go copy. All right, and what's new is I'm now going to have an option. So I've copied the grant, and I've copied all the level 2 activities that are associated with this grant. But it's going to ask me now. It says it's copied. It says I copied the grant and the 5 activities, so I know what's happened. But it also says now, do I want to navigate to that new copy, or do I want to stay where I am? So this is a new prompt that's going to come up, and I can say yes. I want to go to the new copy. So here I am in the new copy, and I can see here's my copy, and it's got all my activities and everything is done. It was all seamless. Now I don't actually want this one, so I'm going to delete it. But I want to show you what I did there, because I chose to have nothing surface in that copy. So they just hit copy and it got copied, and that was it. Now there's another way of doing it where you can see the options, and I can say, I want to change some things. Maybe I want to change the status, or I want to include some fields or not include some fields, but I wanted to do it a seamless way. So I'll show you how I set it up. So when I went to my grant and I went to the copy options, there's something here called copy restrictions. And in copy restrictions, since I'm a system admin, I set this up for me. I specified what I wanted copied from the record and what I didn't want copied from the record. And because there was nothing for the user to choose, it didn't show the user any options. So it just went straight to that, okay, your thing is copied now. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to the copy, or do you want to stay? If I had chose to let the user specify something, then I would have had an intermediary screen where they would have to pick that before it got to that screen. And I did the same thing as this on the level 2. So this is just a nice, easy way to make a quick copy of things. Sometimes people have the same grants going year after year or something similar to that, and they just want to make a copy and they make a few changes. So you can set those up, those copy profiles, and you'll now get a new navigation. So that's the major things that are going to happen, that will happen automatically. There's a few minor things I want to talk about, and then I'll get to the optional stuff. So if I look at charts, I'm going to go and look at some charts here. Portals, I'll set a portal up here, and I'm going to preview it. So here's a bunch of charts that are set up in the website theme. So we offer bar, horizontal, pie, line, donut, 3D pie, 3D donut. So I can set any of these types of charts. And we have a thing called view options. So with view options, I can see the chart as a chart, or I can view it as a table right here. And I can drill into this. So right now I have this divided up by types. So let's say I want to see all my grants there in the arts and culture type. I click into that, and here I go. Now I can see the grants that make up that. And if I want to, I can switch over to the table view, and I can still see those grants. Now, I could always click into this and navigate right to that record. In this upgrade, I can do that from the chart as well. So we've made it consistent now. So if I click into this, it brings me right to that specific record. So I can actually navigate through the charts if desired. The other thing we didn't really announce is, or I guess to note, is that we can do line charts, but the line charts are more of a display only. You can't click into the line charts. The rest of them you can click in, whether you're looking at the table, whether you're looking at the chart, you can click all the way in and get through. You can also anytime view the data. And if you've never seen these view options, I'll just show you. I'm going to turn to configuration mode here. I'll open it up. I'll show you how that gets turned on. So right here, it says enable view options. So this is a portal section. I made a bar chart here. I picked a list view and I said enable view options. And that's all you need to do to be able to switch between the table and the chart. So login pages, I feel like could use a bit of clarity. So when you log in, log out for a second here. So when I log out, right now I'm in the English login page. So you can have login pages in all sorts of different languages, and I can switch between the languages, right? And if I'm in English, it says here lang equals 1. That's English language. If I switch it to Dutch, not Dutch, Danish, it'll say lang equals 23, which is the code we have for that. In this upgrade, sorry, I'm just going to move that out. In this upgrade, we've got the select language. If I leave it as select language, then whatever language I previously selected is what I will go to when I've logged in. If I manually switch it to another language, when I log in, I will get the language I switched it to. So whenever you've switched to the language, you get the language you switched it to. If you leave it on select language, you go to whatever you previously selected. So that's how the language works on login pages. And the default, I'll just show you. If you haven't ever seen these before, go to global settings, branding. There's a link here called login pages. And when I go to login pages, you can see here's the English login page I was looking at. And I set it as default. So even if I don't define anything, you're going to see that one. If I want everyone to see French, I could set the French as default. And I'll show you where that's done. So when we set up our login pages, it's right here. You can pick one default language page. So if someone didn't specify what language, then you get whatever one is marked as default. And it's really easy. You just set things up here, change your picture, change your text, and save. It's really quite nice, in my opinion. All right. So if you notice when I was looking at my record, let me look at Charles Babbage again. So I'm gonna go to Charles Babbage. When I was looking at my record, you could see there's all those counts. Well, in some areas, we weren't seeing counts when I had things like activities and grants. Grants, yeah. So here's grants and activities. Yeah, I got 4 under budget, I think. Which one is it? I don't know. But anyway, there's 201 of those. So under grants, now you'll see these aggregate counts where they weren't there before. Sometimes they were missing, and now we've added them. All right. When you set up a system, sometimes there can be configuration errors when it's set up, and going to the log can help you resolve those. So if I go to system configuration error log, I don't have any configuration errors in here, but if I did, they'd be all listed here, and we now added the ability to export those, so I could bring them out into Excel in case I wanted to analyze them and divide and conquer the work maybe. Likewise, I can do the same thing with the autoloader process. If something's failed or in process stuff, I can export those logs and keep those for later. Something else we added here, I don't know if you noticed that, is if the file doesn't download directly, instead of opening in a new tab, we've added this nice thing which gives you an option to download it. So that makes that whole experience a little nicer. Sometimes when you're working with your system and you got a custom field, now I almost never delete custom fields, but sometimes you want to know where a custom field is being used. So if I click on a custom field, so I'm going to go into a custom field now, and I'm going to look at this print application, for example. And there's a button right here called search reference. And what it could do is when I look at it, it says, oh, where in the system is this field being called? So I can see this web page view is actually being used in a workflow. So, oh, okay, good to know where that's being used. In this upgrade, I'm going to go back and look at a different one. Let's look at amount requested. In this upgrade, we've added a little more because previously, if it was in a report, it didn't show up. So now we've added that as well. So if you're using a custom field in a report, it'll now show up in here as well. So it's a nice way to search where a field is being used in the system. And it now supports reports. All right, last thing that's going to happen automatically is I'm going to talk about is the search. So by default, your search is sticky. So here I am on a list view, and let's say I want to search for something. I want to search, I don't know, let's say arts. So I search arts. All the records that have arts in them are going to come up. If I navigate away and I come back, I can still see it remembered that last time I was here, I searched for arts, and that shows up. Now, if I want to, I can clear this. But if I don't want to remember ever, now clearing, by the way, doesn't remove the type or the status. It just clears the last thing I typed in search. But if you don't want it to remember, you can turn that off now as a personal setting. So if you don't want it, I can go to user, personal settings, and we have remember previous search. So if I want to, I can turn off those previous searches, and every time I have to type in whatever criteria, or it just won't remember my criteria I typed. So that's a little add-on there. All right, let's talk about the on-demand stuff, the stuff that you have to turn on to use. Now, I'm going to just briefly talk about the shopping cart because I know they're going to do a feature launch on this. The product team will talk about it. So I'll just show you some of the changes of what happened here, and I won't go into the full thing. But let's say I wanted to show you the process. Let's say I wanted to donate. So now you can use the shopping cart for anything. It could be for events, it could be for purchasing things, whatever you want. But let's say I'm going to donate to an organization. So I would go to my organization list view. Maybe this is a map, shows them the distance. It could be set up any way you want. And essentially you put a donate button either on the list view or on the organization itself. And I'd come in and I'd say, okay, I want to donate $20 to this organization. And then I could go and I could donate to other organizations as well. And I can see it's in my cart, and they would just keep adding to my cart. When I'm all ready, I'd say proceed. And here it says, okay, I want to donate 20 bucks, but you can see there's actually a fee on it. So maybe it's a transaction fee, or it's a fee on because I'm using a credit card. So I can say as well, I really want to top it up because I want my full $20 to go to that organization. So I'll cover whatever fees. So I can optionally do that if I want. I can cover the fees to make sure that that full $20 goes, or I can leave the fees included in the donation. And then I would pick something like credit card here, where it's and I enter my credit card information, and away I go. Or what I could do is something like I can do payroll. So I'll have this deducted from my payroll, or maybe I want to deduct it off of every payroll. I can do that again. And again, all the fees and things will adjust on the fly. Let's just say I'm going to do it off my next payroll. And then I say, okay, and I confirm, and I get a message and it's done. And then we would email or set up as you see fit. So that's essentially the kind of process for the shopping cart right now. And I know we're adding more to it. So stay tuned. If you're curious about it, the settings for the shopping cart items, the payment forms, and the orders are all here under system. But like I said, there will be a full product launch, so I don't want to talk too much about it. Just showing you where we're at. This is exciting for me and near and dear to my heart. So when you're looking at portals, I'm going to open my portal again. All right, so I'm going to preview this portal. Actually, before I preview it, I want to show you. So when I'm working with portals, so here I am, I'm in a portal. There's different looks you can have to your portal. So, there's the content that you want, there's the layout, like how it's arranged, and then there is the look and feel of your system for your users, all right? So when we talk about themes, we're talking about that look. So there's different looks, and it used to be a drop down, but we've changed it to a visual picker here. So I can see We've always had a traditional, which we often call default, a white paper and website. But in this upgrade, we added 3 more new looks. So it was a very monumentous change to put all 3 of these in. But we've done 3 brand new looks to give you more variety over how your system's going to look and feel, and this visual picker, which is really nice. So let me show you how some of these look. And then beyond the look and feel, we've also added a whole bunch more templates. So for those of you who remember the website, this is one we already had. We had this nice big full wide thing, everything with the sharp corners. It's very clean. But in this upgrade, we added, for example, a new portfolio look. And then this is a portfolio layout. And it comes along with a header banner, which you can put your picture into. Your content information and things can be here. And it's a much nicer look in some regards. The interactions are a little nicer. We also added, for example, the overlook. This is the overlook view, and it's got a template of its own. And again, this one's much nicer for multi-column layouts. You can see it's got the rounded corners. And again, the interactions are a little different with it, but it just gives you a little more variety over how you want your portals to look for people. And lastly, we added another one, management giving. And this one is, again, it's kind of rounded corners, but no drop shadows. It's very flat and clean. So there's a lot more variety now in the looks and feels that you can have in your portals. So I hope you guys try some of those out and see. Let me show you, in case you didn't know, you could go on the backup, for example, or you could go into a draft portal and you can just switch it over, and then you would see and save it, and then you see how this look works with the content you've got. And if you had never done it before, for example, if I pick management and do a template, here you can see the different template options that come with that theme, just to kind of start you off. What that will do is it'll populate the sections for you, and then once you've populated your sections, you can just pick the content you want. And of course, if you've never used it before, the portal preview, you can use a configuration mode in the portals. I can click on a section, and then I can just pick what list view I want and whatever options. So we're really trying to make it easier for people to create their own portals and modify their portals and to change the look and feel of the portals. All right. All right, I'm not going to show this. I don't have it configured in my system, but ORCID for researchers. In this upgrade, we had the ability now to push funding to an ORCID profile. So a person's ORCID profile, your system could push funding data to their ORCID profile in this upgrade. So that's quite cool. And I'm sure the product team will talk to you about that in a separate webinar. If you're using DocuSign, so I talked earlier about the e-signature. If you're using DocuSign, we've added the ability that you can specify fields. So again, what happened is you might create a PDF and send it off to this third party for people to sign it. As part of that signing process, you can now put a field in there, like some text boxes in there, so they can add some comments or some content to it and then sign. So sometimes people might want to do that in the third party as opposed to doing that, logging into SmartSimple and doing that. You can do that now with DocuSign. We added a like button. Well, not really a like button, but we've added a like custom field, sorry. So sometimes you want to ask people, maybe you want to ask people a question. Do they like this cause? Do they, is this something that do they enjoy this experience maybe? Whatever the question is, we can now add a custom field, which we're calling the like custom field, and people can upvote and downvote, or and later we'll probably add more other mechanisms to it. You can choose whether or not to show the aggregate, so I can either I can say it and we can hide it from other people, or we can, like I said, we can show it. And the way you would do that, let me show you this field. So here's the new like button rating custom field, and you can choose to show the aggregate or not show the aggregate. And that's showing these numbers here. And once you've got that set up, you can put it into a list view. So if I change my list view over, likes. So for example, I can see, which applications or which calls people like the most, or what causes, whatever you want to do that to, you can now set that up. And I believe, don't quote me as I haven't set it up yet, but I believe you can report on that because it's a JSON data as well. So yeah, that's a new like button, custom field. If you're someone who's been doing disbursements, traditionally you had to be a system admin, I believe, to set that up. Now you no longer have to. Do that. Instead, you can set a role permission on those disbursements, and they would show up under tools here. You'd be able to see the disbursement tool. I feel like I missed something significant there about the templates. Let me see about the imports. Did I skip the imports? Anyway, I will come back to it. Well, I'm going to show you now because, oh no, it's down here. Okay, I didn't miss it. All right, so it's disbursement. With consumer provider records, you can now restrict them based on the type and status. This is what I want to talk about, import templates. All right, wonder where that was. So I think this one's actually another big one. Typically, if I wanted to import grants, let's say, or I want to import something in here. So maybe I want to set up 5 grants. I already know what these grants are that I want, and I want to set them up in here. Well, but I'm not a UT admin, or I'm not a global admin, or I don't want to use the autoloader. Maybe I'm just a program manager or something like that that isn't typically allowed to do that. Well, you can now set up import templates and permission them by role. And you can see here, I can now use the import wizard right from this list view. So if you've set up one of these templates and you assign it to a role, then they can now see this button. And what they can do without being a global admin is they can come in here, for example, and basically I would select, if I have multiple templates like I do, I could select the template that I want, which would allow me to upload certain information. I could upload it as a CSV file, or as in this case, now I want to just copy and paste it because I know what I wanted. So I say copy and paste. And here's my 3 applications that I want to copy and paste and import into the system. I say next. It shows me here's my 3 applications. I use this top one for my mapping. That's because that's the way I like to do it. And then I say ignore my first line. So I ignore the first line, and you can see down here it's auto mapped it. But I can also, if I'm doing the same one all the time, we have what's called cache mapping as well, where it'll remember what you did last time and it'll map those fields to the right area. So if I'm all happy with that, which I am, I can see there's my 3 and I'm ignoring the first line because I just used that for my field mapping. I say next, here's my applications. And then if I hit next again, it would create those 3 applications in the system, just like that. So, I mean, that's a nice utility tool for people. Let me show you where I set up those. So if I go back in, I'm going to go to my UTA. I'm going to go to the level I want, which is grant, which is my level 1. And then right here, typically you would have used the grant import wizard, but now you can set up these grant import templates. So here I've set up a grant import template, which would allow me to import of a specific type and a specific status, and I can permission it for whatever roles I want. Who gets to see this? So I think that's kind of huge. Some minor updates. The bulk file download, it's available for consumers and provider lists. So let me show you this. So let's say I've got these records here and I want to download all the attachments to these 2 records, let's say. So maybe there's some attached Word documents, maybe there's some media or images or something. I don't want to go through these records and download each one individually. I want to bulk download all the assets from both these records. What I can do is I can go here and say download files. and I can choose what kind of folder structure I want. Do I want these just in a big lump sum? Do I want them broken up by application, or how do I want them broken up? And I can even pick which fields I want to download, and then I say download, and it'll make a zip file with all the attachments in those files. Now, how do you see that, you might ask? All right, let me show you. I go to the list view. So what I did here is I went to the list view properties, and right here, enable file download. You just toggle that on and save, and then you can download the files attached inside that record. And that's now available in the consumer provider list view. Oh, invitations. If anyone's never seen the invitations before, typically what we do is we use invitations right here. So if I want to invite someone to participate in this application process, I can add these users and I can send invites. I give them the name, I say what I want, and I can send them an invite, they accept it, and then we let them come in and contribute. In this upgrade, we now, through workflows, you can now create these through a workflow and you can send them through a workflow. So maybe you want to add them all, someone reviews them, and then they do something and send a workflow to send these out. You can create and send them again through this workflow. So that's a nice added on. Oh, last upgrade we talked about hashtags. Let me show you those again. So actually here. So here I've got some hashtags and I've entered them in. And if I go to the list view, I can type, let's say I want to see everything that has to do with kids, and boom. Here are my list of things that have hashtags that have kids on it. So if I go back into my record, you simply go in here and you add the hashtags you want and you save, and they get saved into the hashtag library. And it's a way of classifying, letting people self-classify your records and find records based on that self-classification. In this upgrade, we extended this a bit more. We did a few things. So first off, if I come down here, you'll see that we now have roles allowed to create. So maybe you only want your employees to create hashtags and not your applicants, which is fine. You just set it up here like that. Only employees or only whoever you want can create the hashtags, and everyone else can then search them. We've also added the hashtag category. So you could have one set of hashtags and use it across multiple fields. And lastly, if we go to global settings, down here, there's the hashtag library where you can actually see which hashtags you have in your system, what category they're currently in, how many records are being used on, and you can go in and modify those as needed too. So hashtags, easy way to self-classify without having to bug your system admin, and find records based on whatever self-classification you've done. To get them to be able to search in here, the way I did that, because you'll notice that you have to include that column in your list view, but you see I included it, but you can't see it. And so how I did that, I just want to show you, because that may not be obvious. So when I go to columns, I have a column that I've added here called hashtags, and I chose the hide column. So it's there, you can search on it, but you don't see it. And that's just because I didn't want a column that's going to show all my hashtags here, because it would have a lot of information in it. You can use JSON for a format for report exports now. I don't have that set up, but that's there. And the rest of these things are all about the API. There's some changes on the API, but I do, if you have questions about that, it's best to give support a call, and we'll connect you with someone a little more technical than myself to help you out with that. One other thing just for partners, if you're creating new instances, we did do some, we're automatically toggling on some settings and things for things that we recommend, like CAPTCHA, like the smart check, the compact header, etc. So you will notice if you're cloning or you're creating a new instance, some things will change, and availability of some features will also be modified. So that was the the big run through. Now, what I was going to do is start answering all the questions. So let's go to the chat.
Thanks, Mark. That was really great. So first question, can we add new contacts on the fly here? I think that was referring to the updated interface. So
perfect. Yeah, let me show you. So if I'm contact here, and let's say I don't have that person. So let's say, well, so I type someone's name and they don't exist, then I get this create new contact. And from there I can create the new contact and then attach them. So yes, you can do that.
You have to activate the user, which they, for like more clarification, when they add a contact as an applicant, we have to activate them so they can access the system. I think that's believe that's still the case.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe they have to be activated as well. I'm not exactly familiar. If I add a person, let me open this guy up. So usually you'd see login access and things here. Depends on how you have your system set up, but yeah, I believe they still have to be activated. Now, whether that's an automatic thing or how that's set up, depends on your configuration, I believe.
They just wanted to see, I think, a bit more, but if that user can just reach out, if they were a specific feature they wanted to see more about, we're definitely happy to show you that. Another question was, can the new import template feature be used for L2 activities? Yeah,
actually, that's a great point. I'm sorry, I totally neglected that. Yeah, level 2 and level 3 you can import there as well. So it's kind of huge. I know I may not have sounded as excited as I should have, but yeah, on the level 2 and the level 3, you can also bulk import. So a lot of times people have many activities they want to just import very quickly. And yes, we've extended that in those areas.
How does the add contacts function work if people need to accept their roles? Would added contacts still go into the pending area instead of being added as contacts right away?
I believe so. That goes into kind of how the system's configured, but I believe, yeah, however your normal situation would go is how it would continue to go. It wouldn't bypass anything. So it depends on whether your people are automatically set up to be able to access or whether they have to follow some type of process. I believe it would follow the same process you normally do. It wouldn't bypass anything. That's the question. And just so people can see, here it is on an activity. Here's the import wizard.
Can you show us more about how we might use the associations to add an organization, such as a foundation and a business entity? I cannot pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Fiduciary agent. I feel like I'm so bad with pronunciation. I'm so sorry, Lynn.
So if I heard that correctly, so I've added this organization here. So again, I would just look it up like normally I would. So let's see my vest, and I can associate them as a partner here, but you can associate them in any role you want. And at that point, they're associated now, and you can, again, you can group email them or whatever else your business process decides that you want to do here.
Awesome, thank you. If question set builder is, or if the question set builder is not reportable, how might we use it?
Well, that's the thing. It's more for a one-off. So if I just want to ask, like I said, maybe I have something where I just want to ask a couple very specific questions. It's more for, I would see it used where people want to ask just some kind of clarifying question that they just want to see what the answer is, but they don't necessarily want to report on it. I know if it's like money and things like that, you'd want to make a custom field. In most cases, you'd want to make a custom field, but there are cases where someone just wants to ask them some background information where they don't want to report it. And that would be perfectly fine for it. Give me some justification or some background information about your organization, maybe, or I don't know. There are use cases out there. I'm not the best one to speak to that, though. It is, yeah. I mean, the one drawback is that you can't really report on that information. So, but the benefit is that you don't have to create all those custom fields, and you don't need a global admin to set up those questions.
Can question set builder be configured on provider consumer relationships or on a provider consumer relationship?
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask support on that one. I've only ever done on the level 1 to level 2, but I don't know. I'd have to check. Give support a call maybe, and we'll see what they set that up for you.
In the contacts, how does the role you choose for the contact in the application affect the role you choose for them to use the system?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what's the context here? So there's this is an association role. So they're associated to this record in that role, which is a bit hard for me to explain, as opposed to I have this role in the system. Um, yeah, you know, my apologies again. I'm not going to explain this part, but essentially, yeah, you can assign someone in relation to this. I'm an applicant on this one, so when I'm seeing this, I'm in the applicant role, but maybe in another one, I'm a reviewer. So when I'm seeing it, I can do different things in association with that record. So when I look at that record, I may have different permissions than when I look at a different record. So that's how the roles are kind of used in relation to those specific records, as opposed to when I look at the whole system, I'm looking at it in this kind of role as opposed to another role. Hopefully that kind of answers it. I think I butchered that one.
No. Like Mark said before too, if anybody has like any further questions or like needs maybe like a bit more like more of like a one-on-one question, definitely reach out to support because they're always like happy to like answer any questions in a bit more detail if it's specific to your system.
They'll walk you through it. They'll take a lot more time.
Yeah, they just have more, yeah, like Mark said, more time to be able to kind of explain like each situation further. So one of our users was just, wanting to see a bit more about user profiles. They said the one in this demo systems look a lot fancier, which is, it's a nice compliment, so thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, so you want to see the new profile theme or the new template? Well, I'll just show you both. So let's see. So I'm just going to preview this one. So the nice thing is that, profile, let me see portfolio profile. All right. So the one I like about this is, I mean, it's kind of constrained. I can jump right to edit my profile here. I can put my image in, change this. And if I go in here as well, I'll show you some of the back of this, how it looks in the background. So this is the profile banner, which you can actually add to other looks and feels. So if you want this kind of a banner, and I can actually put some extra text in here as well, and that text will show up. With all these banners, I don't know if people are aware, but you can insert a banner section, for example, like one of these. You can modify the text, and then you can add a button in here as well, or many buttons if you want. So that's kind of a nice, easy way to make some type of visual content in your systems to kind of look and feel. Now this one over here, I'll just kind of go into it. I don't want to scare anyone, but basically we just put some variables in with a very little minor bit of HTML, which kind of in there to generate that. But it auto generates with that. We've done it for you already. So it's just a matter of, if you want, you can just change something or take something out. And the rest of these are just list views, which are super easy. You just pick the list view you want, and you can choose whether or not some different options down here. Shortcuts, again, you have really nice control over the shortcuts. I don't know if anyone's, let me show you this in case anybody's ever seen this. So I open up a shortcut section. I can choose the shortcuts I want. I can reorder shortcuts. I can put them in any order I want just for this section. I can look up shortcuts. So I've got lots of shortcuts here. So I can pick those shortcuts I want. I can check them on and off to rearrange that. So it's, it's really kind of somewhat intuitive setting this up. And again, this is just a list view, and I just picked the grid style list view and chose an image field to use for it. So instead of having just plain text like up here, sometimes it's nice to have sort of imagery, especially when it's like calls or organizations I want to apply to and that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helps give you a little more background on this.
Awesome, thank you. So it looks like that's currently all the questions we have. Like we said, if you do have any further questions when you're going through the wiki yourself or just like thinking about it later, like please feel free to reach out to support@smartsimple.com. Like we said, they're always happy to hear from you and answer any questions. Recording of the video is going to be posted on our YouTube and will be sent out to all of you who registered for the webinar today within about a week. Thank you again so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. Yeah, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
See you
See ya.
soon.